magic for a good blaster at your side.
Welcome to Hooky Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
Episode 49. And a lot has gone on in Star Wars world since our last episode.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm just trying to make up anything interesting.
Making it all up tonight.
Don't
Making up the
always.
news. It's a fake news night. What have you been up to since our last episode?
What have we been up to?
Only one more till we're done. Forever.
I've spent too much money on the Black Series 40th anniversary figures and got all of them.
Yeah, you're all done now. You're all caught
I
up.
have all of them now.
Let's see. What is it about? What'd you spend? About 25, 30
we don't
each?
count. We don't count in my house. We don't.
Let's see. How many?
We
You've got
don't. We forget.
12, 13 of them.
It goes on the card, and then we never look again. We're all happy here now. Thank you.
We're all fine here now.
Every time my wife comes in here, she's like, "Are you done? Is that it? Two more.
Your wife says that a lot too, I imagine.
Well, every morning, evening, night. It's.
Are you done? Are you quite through?
I'm just eating breakfast.
You've
Yeah.
had enough. Had enough breakfast.
Get out of here.
You've had enough wet toast.
Ew.
That's what you eat for breakfast, right?
Yeah, you boil the toast and you eat it.
Boil your
it's great.
toast.
Boiled toast and
Boiled toast.
and beans.
On the
Great.
toast?
Sure.
Or do you boil the beans with the toast?
Do
Do you toast it and then put it in the boiling pot? Or do you just put the bread in and then you take the soggy
you
piece
boil
of
the
bread out and
beans like
toast it?
tar would be bubbling, and then you dip the toast in it slowly as you imagine it screaming.
But then do you take it out and then toast it? Or does it toast first and then you put it in? Do you toast the soggy bread?
I think that would be very bad for my toaster.
Well,
I have a feeling.
this is bad for your body either way.
Well,
I'm not worried
bread
about
and
your
beans?
toaster.
Sure. Why not?
Your soggy toast and beans breakfast.
Yep.
I was watching Armageddon on the way over here. Not on the way over here.
Okay, what?
Before I came over here.
Okay.
I never seen it before.
You've never seen Armageddon?
No, it's
Bruce Willis and Steve Buscemi and all of those guys?
What's his name? What's
Ben
the-
Affleck
Yeah, that's his
and
name, yeah.
Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
And the Aerosmith song.
All of them.
'Cause that's definitely
Ving
a character.
Rhames, the
Yeah, that's true.
trip guy. I'd never seen it before.
How
And
have you never watched that movie?
it's really bad.
It's not great. No.
It's very bad.
yeah.
It's like a contest for who could freak out the most.
Who could be the worst person on an asteroid?
People are tripping over each other to be over the top and insane.
Yeah, it's not a great movie, but
Every scene is like bodies flying through the air and people flipping around, and
if it's on TV, I will totally watch it. It's one of those bad movies where you just have to sit and
that's
watch
why I
it.
put it on because
Yeah.
I was in the mood for something like that. Just
Something
some kind
just kind of bad, but you can't look away.
of right.
Yeah.
Man,
It's
it was bad.
definitely one of those. You haven't finished it though yet.
No,
Okay.
no. Oh my gosh. I got 59 minutes in, an hour in, and I thought, God, it has to be about halfway by now.
No.
I looked and it was an hour. There's an hour and a half left.
No, it's a long movie.
They're about to launch the shuttles, and there's an hour and a half
They
left.
still haven't even gotten to the asteroid yet.
Right.
That's when shit goes even worse into the fan. You thought it was bad on Earth.
In
Just
the
wait till
story
they're on the
or
asteroid.
In the story?
No, with
or-
everyone freaking out constantly.
Oh.
Yeah, just wait until they're on the asteroid, where everyone loses their mind.
It's every scene is like people cartwheeling around with explosions going on. That's what it's like.
Yeah, it's pretty bad on the asteroid. Good luck.
People cartwheeling around.
Speaking of explosions, so the Han Solo movies turned into a giant explosion.
Explosion of shit.
Yeah, it was an interesting. What's been an interesting like week and a half, 2 weeks.
It hasn't been long at all.
When
did this stuff
been,
first-
It's been at least a week and a half.
When
now.
did the story first come out? Do you think we would have this down in a note or something?
It happened on a Tuesday, I think. Did it happen Did it happen like right after our last episode came out?
Right after it came out, yeah,
Yeah,
it was like in the middle of the week,
Middle of
wasn't
the
it?
week. It was around Tuesday or Wednesday after our
Yeah.
last episode came out. So since then, it's been about a week now since then. It's gone from questioning to
June 20th.
yeah, it's gone from bad to worse to okay to maybe. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
All right, so to recap, before
For
all
those
this,
that aren't aware of the deluge of
before we even get into
shit
that,
that's happened with the Han Solo film.
before we even get into that, so yeah, this was exactly a week ago. So yeah, it was basically right after the last episode came out. So anyway, where were you? Where did you stand on this movie? Well,
Where were you when the news broke? Well, I was sitting on my tractor in the hayfield, and
you were shitting on your tractor.
it doubles as an outhouse. You see, I was sitting on my tractor while I was mowing the hay. What do you do to hay? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, I've never touched hay in my life. What is hay?
Farm stuff. No, so where did I stand on this film?
I was sitting on my farm grass out at my thing field.
Oh, we don't know farming. So my stance on Han Solo beforehand,
The movie.
I've always the film, the previously by Chris Miller and
Yeah,
Andrew
Phil
Lloyd Webber. Phil, yeah, that guy. And my previous feelings, and I think it's been discussed on the podcast, where I was okay with this movie happening, but I was never really sure if we needed it as a film.
Really?
I've never really fully been like, I don't know if this is a thing we actually need. I want to see it, but I feel like there's other stories that could have taken precedent over it.
Other stories that we
I've
need more
I've
besides
never
this?
been on board with Chris Miller, and
Other stories that we need besides this?
yeah, like Obi-Wan would have been great. Anything about
Right.
the Jedi prior. I mean, we've talked about the other movies we thought would be good
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
And I want to know Han Solo's backstory, but I just, as a film, I never really, it was like, all right, I guess that's an easy moneymaker for a studio.
Right.
It's, fans that aren't super fans and, people that barely care
Yeah.
will enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I was never into the directing team either because I'm not a fan of almost any of their films.
Really?
I don't care for their films all that much. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is pretty good. But like the Jump Street films,
Tell me why. What do you not like about
I don't like that style. I don't
the Lego movie, for example? What do you not like
I turned
about
that movie off in 30 minutes, in less than 30
Why?
minutes. I was so bored.
bored?
So bored. I was not having fun. It was the most boring thing ever. I was falling asleep. I was so bored.
Can you agree that you're in the minority?
I understand that movie did amazingly well and people love the Lego movie, but I found no humor in it. Just like the Jump Street movies. I don't find their style like silly, wacky, beep, 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 beep. Like that's how all their movies feel to me. And it's just like, just get on with it. Like nothing was actually
What do
funny.
you want? What do you want from a Lego movie?
It was like someone just opened a bag of jokes and like it was like cheap popcorn jokes from like Walmart, and it's not really good popcorn. It was like okay popcorn that you don't really want to eat, but you have to.
Not at all what that movie
That's
was
how
like.
I feel about all of their movies. It's just like they feel cheap to me, cheap humor.
All right, well, I never saw 21 Jump Street. I don't know any of those movies, but
It's just their style.
you're wrong about the Lego movie. That was
I understand
that was
many people like
legitimately
it.
good.
I was falling asleep less than 30 minutes in because I was so bored. And
I
it was not
completely
enjoyable.
disagree that they went for cheap, easy jokes. They did not go for cheap.
It felt
Easy jokes.
I'm just saying. For me, I was so bored. I hated the Lego movie. I've never gone back to finish it just because I was so bored in the first 30 minutes. I'm totally put off by ever going back and watching it.
All right.
And their style of, I don't know, even Jump Street, it was just that like wacky, zany,
I never saw it, so I don't know. I can't.
I don't know. It's just very on the nose.
I don't have an opinion about that one.
Yeah, it's just all their humor is very on the nose, and I get that style, and I like that style and many other things.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's a little, I don't know. It was always like too wacky,
Interesting.
if you will. And so, like when this news broke, that's something I mentioned to you. Is I always kind of expected more like Han Solo as Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like kind of serious but also super silly. Like I was with them directing, I expected it to be sillier than any Star Wars movie we've had.
Guardians, yeah. Star Wars Guardians, I think is
Yeah.
that would have been about.
But apparently
About
it was a little wackier than that.
I always thought, well, going into it, these standalone movies for me are kind of like, I'm glad to have them. I'm
Yeah.
glad they exist. I'm glad, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but I'm glad that at least what we've been told so far is that these are going to be kind of a stylistic departure from the normal Star Wars
Yes.
feel. And again, we'll get to that. That's a whole other subject that's kind of come out in all of this. But I'm glad these movies exist. I think I'm in the same boat as you in that, like, I could give or take this movie.
Yeah. Like I want
Knowing
Han Solo's
nothing about
story. I
it.
want his story, but that could totally be a book or a comic or something for me.
Yes. At least from what I've heard or what we've both heard about what the story is going to be.
Yeah.
It could totally be a book or a
All
comic.
right. We
or
know he
some-
gets the Millennium Falcon. Just show us in a book or a
Yeah.
comic.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm more interested in Han Solo, like between New Hope and Empire, Han, or even Han
not
after Return of the
between-
Jedi.
Not between Empire and Jedi.
I'm more interested in that story.
Just the
Close-up
just a-
of
just a
Jabba's wall.
Picture. It's just a photo for half an hour.
A framed photo.
Yeah, that's all. Just him and Carbonite hanging out.
Hello from sunny Tatooine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more interested in that. In like established smuggler Han Solo, like that kind of story.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound
Whereas
like
this is
that's
going
what
to be
this
like
is going to be.
him getting into smuggling almost is what it
Yeah.
sounds like with
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson being the
Yeah, I still know
bring
about
upper
that.
of people as his acting job always is.
The break upper.
Yeah.
So
I'm the badass that teaches you what to do and how to be. That's what he is in every movie. And while I enjoy him in his movies,
do you?
yes, in Zombieland,
Can you really enjoy him though? Can you?
yeah. We mentioned we talked about him not during an episode. We talked about him during an episode. It's like Jason Statham or Nicolas Cage. Like they're good in their movies. Maybe they're not in my Star Wars. We'll see.
Get your Woodies out of my Star Wars. So I could give or
Yeah.
take this movie,
Yeah.
but I'm glad, I think, that it's
From
being
what
made.
we've heard.
Well,
Well,
I'm
I'm
glad it's
glad-
being made.
Yes.
And I will say, when I first heard these guys were directing this movie, I was excited because I'm a big fan of theirs.
Mm.
I think they're cool guys. I know you disagree with me on this. Just shut up for a second.
They're cool. They're young. They're hip.
They're cool guys.
They're
They're
wacky.
generally cool. I've listened to director's commentary with them. I've seen them on shows. I've seen them on podcasts, that kind of stuff. They're cool guys. I mean, they're funny. I love the Lego Movie. I think that movie is great. I think for what it could have been a Trolls or a Battleship or whatever the
Yeah.
hell else people are making. But it wasn't. It was great. It had really good jokes in it, and good story and all that junk. Never saw the Jump Street movies, so I don't know. I love Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Is one of
It is really
genuinely one of my favorite
It is really
movies
good.
ever made. It's
really
amazing.
funny.
Yeah.
good. Which doesn't make sense why I don't like Lego Movie. 'Cause
No, it does.
I love
I know
Cloudy
it's
with
the
a Chance
same kind of
Meatballs.
humor too, sort of. I mean, I guess it's more wacky, but so I was excited. I know the subject matter was going to be completely different from what they have normally dealt with,
Which is why I was always questioning.
but I was
how
hoping
does that fit their style?
for more of a. I'm trying to think of the comparisons here, like an Edgar Wright feel or a. I'm trying to think. What are some other directors like that?
But Edgar Wright is better.
He's more story driven, I
Yeah.
guess. I can't come up with any. I'll think of some examples, but
Yeah.
I was thinking that they would be able to blend what they're super good at, which I assume is what Lucasfilm thought as well.
That's what because Kasdan was like so excited from like things he was saying that he was like looking forward to working with them, and he really thought their style would fit well with Han Solo.
Yes.
And Kasdan was really like He seemed
He was an advocate.
he was very much advocating them being the directing team,
He was one of the reasons
originally.
they got brought on.
and
Originally.
also one of the reasons they were brought off.
So anyway, I was a fan. I'm a fan of theirs still. I mean, I don't want to say I'm not a fan of theirs. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
theirs still, and I was excited to see how they could blend what they're super good at, that they, this kind of wacky improv style stuff, with the more serious story driven kind of Star Wars stuff that we have now. I think that would have been a good blend. So what happened last week?
Yeah, so to catch up anyone that hasn't really followed what the story has been, was it Tuesday, I think?
Tuesday.
It was.
Yep. The 20th.
There was a story, Kathleen Kennedy coming out making a statement that Chris Miller and Phil Lord, right? That's the other guy's name.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. They were let go. Basically, that's not what she said. They were parting ways due to, differences.
I have to pull up
due
the quote.
to creative
differences. Yeah.
Essentially, they were fired from the Han Solo film. And Chris Miller and Phil Lord came out saying, we hate the term creative differences, but this was truly due to creative differences that we're splitting, we're splitting ways and moving on. So as of Tuesday, there were no directors for the Han Solo film with 3 weeks left of filming. This was at the ass end of filming the movie. So for your directors of your film to be let go with 3 weeks left of filming is unheard of. That's not
crazy.
something that ever happens.
So here was the statement from Kathleen Kennedy. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are talented filmmakers who have assembled an incredible cast and crew, but it's become clear that we had different creative visions on this film, and we've decided to part ways. A new director will be announced soon. That's it. That's all
Yeah.
we got on Tuesday.
Which
then-
was the internet was freaking out. People were like, Kathleen needs to be fired from Lucasfilm because she
People
doesn't know what she's doing.
Blew the hell up when
Yeah.
this came out.
with that paragraph, people were freaking out and basically were attacking Lucasfilm for this decision,
And
not
there's-
knowing anything yet.
I saw a new article today that said something about Star Wars is becoming too formulaic and that's a bad thing or something. There's still this kind of crap going on.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
at the
people
same
blew
time,
up.
the only thing that we got from the other side of the story, the other side of the road, Chris and Phil's point of view, was in the same statement. They said, unfortunately, our vision and process weren't aligned with our partners on this project. We normally aren't fans of the phrase creative differences, but for once, this cliche is true. We are proud of the amazing and world-class work of our cast and crew.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only
So
word we
the
had.
internet exploded for a couple of days.
As
It was
it
2
does.
days until we started getting more information.
Yeah.
It's probably late Wednesday, we started getting more info.
So then stuff started leaking out
So
from
before then, what was
details what happened.
your first thoughts with this? What was what did you think about this decision from the beginning without any of our, grain of salt information we have now, because it's from quote sources, because no one's going to go out there with their name saying that
yeah.
what they know of what's happening. So supposedly these other things are legitimate sources that we're going to be talking about, some of the information we've heard about what's happened. But without any of that information, what was your opinion? What was your thought on this happening?
When it first dropped, I was really skeptical. Obviously, nobody knew why. I didn't know. I couldn't even speculate why this happened, but we were going back and forth. I was still totally on the side of Chris and Phil.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, maybe they just quit because they, weren't agreeing about something. Who knows? Maybe, I thought, let's give them the benefit of the doubt because I'm sure they had a vision for it, and maybe it really wasn't just
It
working
just
out.
butted heads with Lucasfilm and the
Right.
executives, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Obviously, I was really surprised. I never
Yeah.
would have seen this coming.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know it
Regardless
had
of-
that amount of time left to film. I didn't realize it was only
Well,
3
yeah,
weeks left to film.
Regardless of, for me anyway, regardless of when it happened at in the production, I would have been just as surprised if it happened before they even started photography.
Yeah.
I never thought guys like these would have been would have left or even been fired. Like
Yeah.
that was the furthest from my mind.
Yeah, so for me, when it happened, I mean, obviously, I understand that they are good directors, and I understand that their films are good. I'm just not personally a fan of some of their films. But to fire your directors with 3 weeks left of filming seems like just the biggest train wreck. And like, okay, so this film is now without hope, right? Like, there's no way this is going to work out to be a good film at this point. Is kind of how I felt. Like, all right, well, I guess there goes Han Solo film. We'll see it when it comes out, and then forget about it. But I did side with Kathleen Kennedy because not because I don't care for Chris and Phil's movies, but more so she has done nothing but she has all of her decisions for the Star Wars films have been for the good of Star Wars and not necessarily for the good of. Obviously, she's an executive, and it's been for the good of Lucasfilm and the good of Disney.
Yeah,
but
not from the perspective of this is good for the company.
Like it's never felt like she's just trying to make money. It felt like she was making decisions for the good of Star Wars as a whole.
Yes,
and in her hiring people, in having a story group, and in having the directors work together and things like that. Like every decision.
Take the Rogue One reshoots, for example.
Yeah,
like we were always, let's err on the side of caution about that when that news broke. And turns out that movie is great. I mean, I would say whatever it was before, I think the reshoots made it better.
And people were all freaking out like, oh, the reshoots are going to make it not as gritty. Whereas they left in the part that everyone died. Like that was not something they got rid of. They let that.
No, that was part of the.
And that was part of the reshoots was letting everyone die.
Yeah, they changed the story to make everybody die. So yeah, it's. I agree with you. I think the decision she's making, from at least up to this point, maybe even including this, it has always been from the perspective, the motivation of trying to make Star Wars better, not just,
I mean, with 3 weeks left of filming, something major had to have been wrong between parties.
Yeah.
Something big had to have been wrong.
Yeah.
And it's odd that with 3 weeks left of filming that it couldn't have been worked out. That's where my first thought was. Like, how can they not just like, all right, let's work this out. Let's finish it. Let's do our job.
Yeah.
Type of thing. But little did we know over the next week. I think most people have now sided with, okay, that was a good decision. From what we've heard on apparently what they were doing, again, pretty much all information here forward is, all allegedly and from quote sources.
Yes,
so take it with a grain of salt.
Well, hold on before you say that. I'm going back to what you're asking about how we first reacted to it and going back to our chats.
Oh, you're going through our chat.
And I said at one point, it's so unexpected and crazy that I just laughed. And I remember when I was first reading that article right before I sent it to you, I saw the headline and I just started laughing out loud because it was so out there. I never thought I would ever see that.
Like it felt like clickbait. Like it felt like this is not a real thing that would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
So just, all the information we're going to talk about going forward is, it's not all the reports, but it's kind of the gist of the reason why they were fired, if you will.
Yeah,
they were definitely fired.
Gathering from
they were let go.
A couple different places. And obviously all of these places quote anonymous sources. Nobody's on the record about any of this stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff has come from sources with the Hollywood Reporter.
Variety, EW. I think Star Wars Underworld put an article out. Making Star Wars had some stuff on it. Blah, blah, blah. A bunch of different places.
So some of this information is not necessarily in the order it came out, but kind of in the order of how things have happened with the film, with where we've ended up. Of course, for those that hopefully in the know, we all know now that Ron Howard is now directing the film, which we'll get to later.
Officially.
Yeah, we'll get to later about, I guess, some thoughts on that.
You were initially, I'm still going back through this. You were initially like, what the hell did they fuck up?
Yeah, that's I'm totally like, what did they do wrong? Because I don't expect Kathleen to like just.
And I kept saying, I bet nothing actually got screwed up.
Yeah.
But it was just a difference of opinion, like they said in the article. I couldn't
fathom believe that
that these guys would
Anything had
screw
been
something
done
up that
wrong.
badly to be fired. So
Yeah.
anyway, keep
So
going.
I think, in that conversation was when I said, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I guess if it's that difference of opinion, maybe they just didn't like what they saw. And, like I think I said, that's where I first said that I, kind of expected Han Solo / Guardians of the Galaxy out of them.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they got and they didn't like it.
Right. And I think what ended up is it's kind of both.
Yeah. So again, not in the order of news coming out, but kind of in the order of how it shook down internally. So allegedly, Alden Ehrenreich had concerns with the production as filming progressed. That he was worried. He actually worried about Lord Miller's like screwball type comedy, and he felt that it was starting to interfere with the character of Han Solo.
So you
And-
say screwball there, and that was something you were kind of saying. You were saying wacky,
Wacky,
and zany,
yeah.
and initially, and I didn't want to agree with you at all because I thought
Yeah.
there's no way that these guys would do that in their first big budget movie and it being a Star Wars movie.
So,
But that word has been used
Screwball
multiple
and-
times
yeah.
in various articles. So
Zany, oddball, screwball. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
been used. So going from that, so apparently Alden had an issue, and one source described it as being oddly comparable to Jim Carrey's performance in Ace Ventura
that's insane.
at times. So apparently Alden let his concerns be known to one of the producers, who then told Kathleen Kennedy about it, which led to her decision to look over the existing footage.
Yeah.
Because obviously all the footage they had seen so far has been like, chosen pieces, here and there, like, oh, here's the thing we did. It's been like little snippets is
Yeah.
usually what the executives get, are not even the dailies. They just get like, oh, here's a snippet of what
Mhm.
we're working on, kind of a chosen piece,
Right.
not the whole. So
I mean, I guess I don't, I
the
really
powers
don't.
that be, above that, the
would
powers that
think,
would
though,
fire people.
You would think though that, see, this is something I brought up initially when we were talking too. You would think that Lucasfilm would have been more involved. Obviously, we don't know how involved they
Well, I think
were.
they do trust in their the everyone involved, and
But I mean, do you
to-
think
to
this
do
is a case
everything.
of Lucasfilm realizing that they should have been more hands-on?
probably. And I mean,
weren't?
even before this whole Alden, allegedly Alden bringing it up, even before that, apparently Chris and Phil butted heads with Kasdan, the writer
yeah,
of the film. They butted heads on
it was
some of the
Kasdan
story,
and his son who
Yeah.
wrote the story.
and they'd even butted heads with Kathleen. I think some probably prior to this as well.
I think
um,
that came when Kathleen stepped up to bat for Kasdan
Yeah.
and backed him up. I think then
I mean,
we'll get to that, but there was like an ultimatum, and
I
Kathleen
would,
aired on the
trust
side of
Kasdan's
Kasdan.
instincts. I mean,
I think so. I think I would agree with you.
so then
So anyway.
another source was saying there was something zany to the tone to some of the scenes more than they would have liked, in part due to Chris and Phil's improv style.
Yeah.
Basically letting the actors do many improv takes and it not being on brand with the characters, like it not feeling like Han Solo or
So it's
or
like a
whoever
lot
else.
of little misalignments to things.
like it
I
didn't
would
feel
say.
like it seems like it didn't feel like Star Wars.
Hmm.
And I am totally. I mean, well, I guess we'll get through this and then we'll talk about we'll kind of get into
Our
it a little
opinions.
more. Yeah, because I have opinions on it. So according to Hollywood reporter sources, Kennedy and Kasdan were unhappy with the way that Lord and Miller were shooting the film. She was less than pleased with them using only three different camera setups. So 3 different camera placement variations, opposed to 12 or 15 that she had expected with major big budget films. Usually you have a ton of different camera angles and shots of the same scene so that
Yeah.
editing can do whatever they want to do to make the film they want.
That is a little hard to believe because you would think there'd be some kind of support group saying that they would need the director of photography or somebody saying that this is how we do these kinds of movies. That it wouldn't be
You would
totally
feel
up to
that way.
them. That's I don't know about that one.
And
if
I
that's-
mean, there's been later stuff that apparently the crew were not happy with their decisions of doing things the way they did things either.
yeah. See, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, again,
crazy.
this
If
is all
this-
allegedly, and it's hard to believe, but this
If
is
this
coming
is
from
true, it's
if
crazy.
it's true. So
It's-
it's all with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So Kasdan mainly was very unhappy with the amount of improv that they were doing with his script. A source told Hollywood Reporter. A quote being, "They collaborate closely." A source was saying they
I would say
collaborate
that's probably
closely
the-
with their actors and give them creative freedom that, in their experience, brings out the actors' best performances. Lawrence Kasdan would not allow this and demanded that every line was said word for word. To appease him and the studio, Lord and Miller would do several takes exactly as written and then shoot additional takes.
Huh.
So they would do what he wanted and then go back to their improv takes.
So they could edit together whatever
I
worked the
guess.
best, I guess.
So apparently, at some point during production, unbeknownst to everyone, there was a hiatus during filming where the footage was reviewed, and Lord and Miller were told that they needed to overhaul the movie with reshoots when they worked on it later. And if this sounds familiar to Rogue One, but of course it says, but the difference is that Gareth Edwards is a team player. Whereas Lord and Miller basically gave the impression that they were rebellious with the production and that they offered an ultimatum: either let us handle the reshoots our way or we're out. And thus they were shown the door.
So that's the ultimatum I was talking about. I think that's why I think initially Kathleen would have been more neutral. And I think when it came to that, she, erred on the side of, okay, well, let's do what's been written. Let's do these reshoots. We're going to need this stuff to do what's written because I believe in what Kasdan has done and not what what you guys are doing.
So sources said that, this led to what they described as zero creative freedom. But it wasn't just Kasdan who objected to their improvisational style. Again, Hollywood Reporter reported that the amount of improv they were doing led to some crew members, including department heads, complaining about their indecisiveness.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that totally is their style, though. The improv comedy with 21 Jump Street. I know you haven't seen it, but with those actors, in that kind of movie, you can let that happen. You can all right, let's do this scene, shoot it, and those guys are also comedic actors as well.
I would say same thing with every other movie that they've done.
Yeah.
It works well in.
And even in those improv comedies, you probably don't need a 12 camera setup because it's not a giant galactic film where you need these vistas of of options, if you will,
for editing later.
Editing later. And I didn't know this, but it was just a couple of days ago. Apparently, during the process, the editor was also fired and replaced. And
really,
an award-winning editor was replaced with someone else.
Man.
And I think that was before this.
Before what?
Before them
these guys
getting
were
let
fired?
go. I think that it came out that happened prior. So it's hard to believe, but it was my original gut feeling when this happened was that maybe it was too wacky for them. Maybe it was too wacky comedy for them, and it appears that that's exactly what happened.
I had trouble believing that they would do something like that. Like I was saying before, I thought they would be able to blend, like take some influence from what they're good at, but kind of tamper it down and realize, okay, there's a time and place for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is probably not the time and place to go completely crazy with it.
Yeah, and what I was going to say back when we were talking about the zany tone to the film and all of that, I am completely and totally okay with there being a zany, wacky comedy Star Wars film.
Yeah.
I do not think the first Han Solo backstory film is the film to do that with.
Yeah.
I think there's totally a time and a place for that. We've talked about, we want stupid Star Wars TV shows. We want Star Wars Cheers. We want a Star Wars comedy. Like, I would love a Star Wars comedy at some point to see how that would work. But I think, obviously, as Lucasfilm, I think Han Solo is a character they're very precious about. Han Solo has an expectation.
Well,
we know where he goes. We know where he ends up, and we know his character. And many people have known his character for 40 years now, and Han Solo is not really something you mess with, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where some of this, obviously, it gets even more difficult with, all right, this is Han Solo. He can't be too silly.
Right.
He's younger, he's roguish, he's getting into smuggling, and he's, he is kind of, he does crack jokes, and he is a little silly.
Yeah.
But he's not wacky or zany, if you will.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know how bad this really was, or and people are, like I said, people are using these words, multiple sources, multiple articles are using these kind of words. So you would think that it really
equating it to Ace Ventura,
I mean,
which is rough.
That's another level of
That's zany to the max, as the
like
Animaniacs
uncomfortable. That's
would say.
bordering on uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
But see, I think there's a time and a place for that. Not zany and wacky. Not
You
that
can
kind
have
of
a
movie.
Star Wars film like that. Yes, I mean, there's a time and a place for that in a Star Wars film.
In a Star Wars, not Han Solo.
Yes, yeah,
I agree
yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's what I was saying.
Right, but I think there's a time and a place for a more improv, wisecracking Han Solo.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
I agree with you
it
that
has
it's
to be
not
reined
this
in.
movie.
well, I mean, even
You know?
with I don't know Alden all that well. He was in what was he in? Hail Caesar, right?
Yeah, which I
didn't
I still
see.
haven't seen yet.
But with him and Donald Glover, I know Donald Glover can do it. I mean, I know I think Donald Glover is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And his comedy, I mean, he does stand up. He's a funny guy.
He's
I think
hilarious, yeah.
his improv, sense is good.
Yeah.
So I know he can do it. I don't know about Alden. So I think the actors could probably do it, but it all depends on your direction and what, if you're even, because apparently some of this improv and some of their choices was affecting the actual story, where it was, one other source was saying where it was like actually veering off canon. With
Interesting.
some of the choices that they were making, that they were going with things that would have affected canon and actually, like ignored canon, if you will.
Huh.
Some of their, I guess.
See, that's
choices.
the kind of stuff you don't know. You kind of have to take it with a grain of
You
salt.
do,
Because you don't know how.
but that's the point I was saying.
I
is
still find it difficult to believe that these
Yeah.
guys can go that far with this kind of movie. Like,
it is hard to believe, but
I mean, it could very well be true.
Like I think we
don't
both agree,
know.
you can have improv and have some of those choices, but if it is affecting,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I think,
Kathleen
like I
totally
s-
made the right decision. If it is affecting canon and it is affecting the character of Han Solo, then and they're refusing to budge on it, then yeah, I mean, sorry, we wanted your style, but we wanted you to also make a Star Wars film.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Again, the more improv, wisecracking, different, I guess, if you will, Solo.
Yeah.
More fast paced, whatever whatever you want to call it. There is
Hip.
I think there, hip.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess I don't know.
Sure.
There's definitely a place for that. Especially with Han. I think, like I was saying to you a while ago, of all the characters I can think of, Han Solo would be the character for that. Him and Lando together,
Yeah,
and him and a young Lando together.
yeah,
But with this being the second standalone movie, and
the first foray into his backstory.
yes, and only the third new Star Wars movie. Well, I guess it would be the fourth after Last Jedi comes out. But
Mm.
it's very early, is what I'm trying to say, in this whole new canon, new Star Wars.
It's too early to get too different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I would expect that the truly different kind of style, from the new standalone movies that they're going to announce sometime this year.
I mean, if it ends up being Kenobi, that's not going to be a different style. I mean,
Well, yeah. So let me qualify that by saying, going back to what I was saying earlier, Kathleen has always said she's giving these directors of the standalone movies freedom,
yes.
creative freedom to bring a different kind of feel that you wouldn't normally see in Star Wars. Rogue One had that, I would say. It did, I mean, we've talked about that before, right? How
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like the normal
feels
saga
different.
kind of movie. It feels different, yeah. Which is great. And I want to see more of that.
Mhm.
And I would have liked to have seen, like I said, I still want to see, a different kind of Han Solo movie that's more funny and improv-y. But I agree with you in that it probably shouldn't be this movie.
I mean, so Ron Howard's been brought in now to be the director.
Yeah.
And obviously there was only
Which
3
is like
weeks.
the complete other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, we're talking Apollo 13, Yeah.
Very script heavy, story heavy, very
Yes.
serious.
But I think, I mean, I enjoyed Ron Howard. I've seen people trashing Ron Howard about how his films, like, when's the last time he made a relevant film?
Yeah,
Like,
no way. I completely disagree. With
Almost all of his films are relevant. What you asshat?
it. They're all incredible.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
I
a
just
great
mean, like-
great choice. It's an interesting choice because I never would have expected that.
Well, yeah, like I'm saying, it's from starting with Chris and Phil. If you were to go the other end of the spectrum, there's Ron Howard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
completely different.
So I mean, I think he's been brought in to maybe rein in some of that normalness, if
I
you
guess
will.
so.
But there was only 3 weeks left of shooting. They are going to still do the reshoots they already had planned.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a little extended. Apparently, they're still shooting for the May release, which I don't see happening. It's going to get. Hasn't every movie been pushed to December?
Yeah.
But I think they have another big film. I think Disney has another big film coming out in December. So
Is that
I don't think they have a
doing
lot
this?
of options for moving it around. But I'll get to that in a minute. So Ron Howard's an interesting choice, but I think he'll do well. But again, with only 3 weeks left of filming and some reshoots, they don't have time to make an entire new film. So I think
Yeah.
we're going to get a lot of what they did just pieced together better than they were wanting to piece it together, maybe. So I still think we'll see mostly their vision. I think.
Chris and Phil's vision,
Yeah. I think we'll still get their style for the most part, but a reined
but
in,
tampered down.
a tamer version of
Yeah.
of
I
not
agree with that.
Ace Ventura Han Solo.
Thankfully,
Um,
I mean, if that's really
if
what they were
that's
going
true,
for,
if that's true, yeah. So I mean, again, I think we will have some of that improv, or some. I don't know how much they'll let in because Kasdan seems super pissed about it, but hopefully we'll still get their style just with Ron Howard taming it and kind of fitting everything together to make it a whole film. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's
So-
all really rough. Like I don't know. I don't have high expectations for it.
really.
I didn't already, but now I'm like, well, it's coming out and I'll see it. So I guess we'll see what it turns out to be, because now we would have. I mean, we're going from 21 Jump Street to Apollo 13. So there's everything in the world is the middle ground there.
Yeah.
There's every spectrum falls within those two films.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think I'm there with you. I have no idea what to expect now.
I think I might be more excited to see it now to see what the hell it ends up being than I was
Yeah,
before.
Excited.
Like now I'm like,
excited.
all right,
like,
let's see what this train wreck
right.
melted into.
Right. And see, here's what sucks about that. If it does end up being, I mean, they've got such a high bar
Yeah.
for this so far. Last Jedi is going to be amazing. I mean, you just know
Ryan
gonna
Johnson is a genius.
it's going to be
Everything
an
he
excellent
does,
film.
I have loved.
Yeah, it's going to be an excellent film. Rogue One, you know, as much as that isn't as rewatchable as
Yeah.
Force Awakens, it's still good. I still like it.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Force Awakens obviously is great. There's a high bar there. So I think if this movie falls anywhere under that, if like falls short at all, I'm afraid the fallout from that, like the freak out that stupid people do,
Well, yeah.
the majority of
The
people
internet
do.
explosion.
Yeah, that's going to harm something that could, you know, that could be a detriment to future movies.
I mean, if it's bad, people are going to say it was Ron Howard's fault, Chris and Phil's fault, or Kathleen's fault. If it's good, they're going to say, oh, it's because Chris and Phil did a good job, or because Ron Howard did a good job, or
guess
because
that's
Kathleen made the right
true.
decision. Like there's
I guess that's
in
true.
either way it goes, the internet's going to have its huge outcry of they were right or they were wrong, and point in whatever general direction their finger ends up pointing.
That's true.
For whatever reason.
I just hope, yeah, I guess it's bound to happen eventually that there's going to be another bad Star Wars movie. I guess that's probably unavoidable.
A George-less bad Star Wars film will happen.
I mean, right?
I
Odds
mean,
are,
the
if they keep doing these forever.
statistics show It's highly likely.
I mean, what's the percentage of bad Star Wars movies to movies we have right now?
It's 50-50. Well, no, now I guess
I'd
we're
say
better.
it's about-
I guess we're higher than 50-50 now. It's
I don't
'cause
know, a third.
before we had the original and the prequel, and it was about 50-50.
I think it's about
Well,
2/3. No, that's that's wrong.
Two-thirds.
One third.
one third
Of
bad
movies
to good.
or Star Wars movies are bad. I mean, you've got what 3, 4, 5 out of 7, 8. Are good. I mean,
It's
that's about a third. Let's just say a third.
it's still close to 50-50. I'd say like a 60-40.
Really?
60-40 good.
Yeah, maybe.
Rogue One's in that gray area of like
Really, you would put it in
it's
there?
enjoyable, but I have yet to have a desire to watch it again.
Do you have it on Blu-ray?
No.
Okay, I think that says a lot because I don't
Yeah.
have it on Blu-ray either.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I don't. I haven't.
I
think we said on this show
I've
that we
had
would
no
buy
desire to watch it again, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
understand, but I just don't.
it. I think
I
it's
haven't
good.
had-
When I watch it, I admire it a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think it's bad at any
No.
point.
no, I agree.
But I
I
have
have
no
no
desire-
reason. I can't explain it.
I have a digital copy. I'll say that. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
me
do
too,
want to
me
watch
too.
it, I can. I just don't,
I haven't invested in a hard
Yeah.
something that will collect
and I
dust.
can't figure that out. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway,
So release date. So apparently, if they have to push it, apparently in the same year, there's not a with movies Disney has coming out, and I can't remember what movie is coming out in late 2018 for Disney. But
isn't there a Pixar movie coming out around that time?
I think so. So
When is the Book of the Dead one, or not Book of the Dead? What's it called? Gosh,
the one about the Day of the Dead with
with Coco? Was that what
Coco.
it's called?
That's it. Yeah, Coco. Which looks amazing. But
Yeah,
so
is that 2018 or is that this year?
I think so. So Han Solo's supposed to come out
see.
May of 2018. I do not see it hitting. I don't see it getting to the release date. I see it being pushed.
Okay, so Avengers Infinity War is the
Inf-
only thing coming out
Infinity
in
War.
May.
In May.
So if you go to December, you've got Aquaman.
Eh.
It's not Disney.
Oh. What?
At least this side I'm looking at doesn't have a whole lot
No.
of stuff coming out.
So I mean, I could see it getting pushed to December because that seems to be what
You've
the
got
popular-
Wreck-It Ralph 2 happening in November.
Hmm.
Live action Mulan in November.
Yeah.
Not much else.
Maybe there's something early in 2019. I don't know. Anyways, so I mean, even with most of the new Star Wars films have gotten pushed due to one reason or another. I don't see it hitting May. If they can still hit May, that'll be amazing to me.
You think so?
With all of this shakeup and having to like with a week's notice fly Ron Howard out to London to catch up and start working on it again.
You think so?
I mean, he's good, but still reaching May, I think, is rough. So it's possible, but if they pushed it, I don't know if it would still be released in 2018 or not. It may not make it to December. It may be like a weird off month between summer and winter. Or we could end up with 2 Star Wars movies in the same year in 2019.
I really don't think. Yeah, I don't think they would veer from the May December track record.
Yeah. So what if
You?
we end up with what if it gets delayed a year and we end up with Han Solo in May and Episode 9 in December?
I don't think that'll happen.
No.
I think,
I
like I,
think
said,
that's too far off.
I think this has to happen in May.
They have to make it happen.
Yeah,
Like there's really no choice. Like you have to do this now and get it done
I mean, because they're not going to do 2 Star Wars movies.
in a year.
In
It's
a
too
year.
much money. They
Well,
can't- they can't-
hold
they
on.
can't
No,
handle
wait,
it.
hold on.
What would they do with all the money, Michael?
Nothing's happening in December for Star Wars. So
This next year.
in
yeah.
2018, yeah. So I think if it's going to get pushed.
It goes to
It
December.
absolutely has to happen in December, or it's not going to happen at all.
I don't see it being canceled. I don't see them canning it at any point.
Canning it? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not this far into it.
No, not when they only had 3 weeks left of principal photography. And now they have Ron Howard, which I'm sure is not cheap.
Yeah.
To like, hey, by the way, we just lost our directors. And I'm sure they were talking about it
Please
well
fix
before
this.
the announcement was made. But hey, we need you to make a Star Wars film when you've got 2 weeks to decide. Here's the basket of cash.
2 weeks to decide if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure he has to agree to it. They kidnapped Ron Howard and took him to London, took the bag off his head and said, "Make Star Wars."
Oh, okay.
He puts on his red hat and he gets to work.
Oh, he had it on the whole time.
under the bag.
Yeah.
I don't think it comes off, does it? It's permanently attached
The
to his
red
head.
hat.
The red hat. Yeah. Well,
Oh no.
Han Solo is an interesting. Red Cup is going to be an interesting film.
Yes, I just saw something that's completely unrelated. That's very sad.
Okay.
Michael Nyqvist, the actor in the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Oh yeah.
the guy, he's dead.
How old was he?
56.
That's not old.
It's pretty young. That sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
That guy was great. He was in John Wick. Also, he was a bad guy. in
Oh
John
yeah, he
Wick.
was in that.
That sucks.
Well-
anyway, totally unrelated
Yeah.
to this.
So yeah, Han Solo will be interesting to see what becomes of it. I'm sure more sources and more things will continue to come out of the woodworks.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt, but when you have that many sources and that many people using the same type of words like screwball and oddball and zany and wacky,
Hopefully these
it gets interesting that it's all lining up. that
hopefully these
much.
are different sources and not
Yeah. Just the
the
same,
same
anonymous
person.
source using different. He's got a thesaurus on wacky, and he's like looking through trying to pick other words.
just scheduling interviews with people back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I keep wanting to take this stuff with a grain of salt, but
There's
Stuff
just been
keeps
so
coming
many
out.
reports that all kind of line up along the same.
I feel like a Trump
lines.
supporter.
Trying to make sense of anything.
Yeah. Do they though?
Nope.
Anyway.
So speaking of someone that has passed, with Carrie Fisher in episode 9, Colin Trevorrow recently spoke to the Irish Examiner, publicizing his poorly reviewed film, The Book of Henry, which
We have
we
to
have
see
to
this.
see. If
It
you have not
sounds-
read anything about Book of Henry, do that now because it sounds like the most insane thing that's ever been put to film.
It sounds like a new worst movie ever.
Well, it's been equated with like The Room.
Yeah. That says a
So
lot.
That's
we have
see it.
to see this movie.
But anyways, he opened up about episode 9 and how he would honor Carrie Fisher, saying she had a major role in the film and it's something we had to deal with emotionally at first. Now we've had to deal with it in a very practical ways and in a form of storytelling we know is going to honor her and keep her soul alive. But it is an unfortunate reality that we're just going to have to handle. So that does tell us from the start she was still fully in episode 9. I know they had to rewrite the script some, but I didn't expect her to have a full role,
big
really,
role
I
in
guess, still in episode 9.
Well, I think what we've heard about Last Jedi is it's Luke's movie.
Yeah.
So, and I think episode 9, it would have been that for Carrie, I would imagine. Like she would have been pretty prominent.
I guess
Maybe not her movie, but it would have been,
There probably would have been some more stuff with her and Ben.
yes.
Did you forget who Ben was?
Yes.
Jeez. Ben Solo.
Well, this is a Star Wars podcast, right?
Where we forget everything
Yeah.
all at once. Yeah.
Ben who? Who's this now? Obi-Wan? He's dead.
Old young Ben.
Young Ben.
So it's interesting, he said we've had to deal with it in very practical ways and in a form of storytelling that we know is going to honor her and keep her soul alive.
Yeah. Do you want to talk anything about the freak out that's happening about Colin?
What, with the Book of Henry?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, like we said, the Book of Henry just came out recently and it's supposedly one of the worst films ever. If there's an article out there that describes this film and it sounds like
It sounds
like
insane.
you are on drugs. It sounds like you're doing drugs while also on drugs. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to see it. So people are flipping shit that this movie sucks so bad, and now he's going to be doing episode 9.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the Book of Henry came out the week before the whole Chris and Phil thing happened.
Yeah.
And people were all like, we want a new director. We want a new director. And then they fired Chris and Phil. And we're like, not those ones.
Wrong film.
Wrong film. So that's interesting. So people are very upset that he's still making Star Wars after having a horrendous showing, apparently. I mean, it sounds like a super fun film, but that doesn't make any sense. But again, these people are chosen for a reason. Even Chris and Phil, and they were chosen for their style. But I think you're not making your own film. Like the Book of Henry, I think was Colin's own thing, right?
I don't know.
It was an indie. It was like an indie film.
I think it was written and directed by him. Yes.
Yeah, and like Chris and Phil's stuff are their films, like that they make, so they
Yeah.
get to write them, they get to direct them. But when you're working with Star Wars, I think you have to understand that it's a partnership. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we want your style, but we've written the film. We have a story group. We know what we want to happen in the film, but we want you to make it yours within the constraints of
Yes.
this is Star Wars.
Yeah. And I think the reason Chris and Phil were fired, as we're finding out, is because they were so obstinate about.
That didn't seem to
Control.
be team players.
Yeah.
It seemed like they're used to being the writers, directors, full
Say what-
control over their films.
Yeah. Say what you will about this whole creative freedom argument and, fresh style and all that. I think that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is absolutely right. It's a partnership.
You are
These guys have to go into
directing
this.
someone else's film. It is just as much yours as it is theirs.
I wouldn't say it goes that far.
I mean,
I
it's
wouldn't say it's not your film.
but I'm saying it is just as much theirs as it is Lucasfilm's.
Yes.
I mean, there's a story group, there's a writer.
You don't have full control over it. Sure.
You are not the producer, writer, and director of this film.
Yeah.
You are the director. We want to team with you to make our movie because we like what you do.
Sure. Yes, I agree with
But
that.
we also know what we're doing because we're freaking Lucasfilm and we know what's going on. So maybe trust us when we say, hey, this isn't working. We need you to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put your foot down and say, no, well, this is how I do my thing.
Yeah.
Then, well, sorry, it's not working.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think
I think Colin
If-
will not be that way. If there's trouble with
it's a
Colin.
main saga film, so I don't think he has any room to be obstinate and insisting on his own way.
People say what you want about J.J. Abrams, and I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with J.J. Abrams, and some of his films aren't great. I think he handled Force Awakens very well.
Yeah.
And I know he's a team player because he's used to making these giant films.
Yeah. And I think the arguments about it being derivative, Force Awakens, I think some of that you kind of need that
Yeah,
familiarity.
we've talked about that. It was,
Yeah,
I think it was necessary.
We've talked it a bunch of times. Anyway, I agree that he handled that movie very well.
And Ryan Johnson is
And they're having these
Genius.
guys, JJ and Ryan, all involved with Colin on some
all the
level.
directors of the saga films have all worked together at some point or another.
Yeah.
So even
To keep the story.
so it's like Ryan
fluid.
asking JJ to have R2D2 go with Ray
Yeah.
to Acto, and apparently Colin has asked Ryan to do something in 8
Really.
for 9.
Hmm.
And I'm sure he probably had to do other things regarding Carrie Fisher
Sure.
in 8 to make that work.
Yeah.
And I think there was something else I was reading about about I think it was Ryan filming something for Colin for 9. So
Interesting.
either it's either in 8
Mhm.
for 8 or it's something that Ryan went ahead and filmed for Colin for 9.
Okay.
Maybe a flashback or something like that. Who knows?
Interesting.
But they're all working together because they're not those standalone films. There's a large group of support of fantastic directors working together.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think maybe Chris and Phil just got a little too, this is a separate thing, so we can do whatever we want with it. When it's still Star Wars and it's still Lucasfilm, and you kind of have to work with them.
Yeah. I don't know. Man. I'm not. Bottom line, I'm not super worried about 9.
No, I'm not either. I
think
was never super excited that Colin Trevorrow was the director because he's not done a lot of great stuff in my eyes. Because he did what, Godzilla, right?
No,
that was Gareth Edwards. Never mind.
Yeah.
That was even
did he?
Gareth did Godzilla.
I know he
even
did.
That was like
Gareth did Monster. Did he do Godzilla also?
I think
can't
so.
remember.
So
The new Godzilla?
Trevorrow of J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson, and then Colin. It was like, okay, he was a little bit of the odd one out for me.
I think so. So.
But I don't think he's going to do a bad job.
No.
And I don't think him making a weird, like,
terrible movie.
yeah, insane indie film is any reflection on what he's going to do with Star Wars, because an indie film is not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars has too many people involved to let it be bad. Just as we've seen, you if you want to think that you can do whatever you want with Star Wars, they'll fire you with 3 weeks left of filming if you're not doing Star Wars right.
That's apparently
so.
And I think
9 will be fine, and Solo will come out.
I think the
to be determined.
it will be released.
Yes.
I think
Straight to DVD.
the answer to, hey, we'll fire your ass if you're not doing Star Wars right. The answer to that is not Lucasfilm needs to be reined in. Kathleen needs to be fired. Blah blah. Like
Yeah.
that. No, that's not the answer.
No.
I think the point there is that I don't know that Lucasfilm knows what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long ass time.
Yeah.
And Kathleen, if you look at her track record of films she has produced or worked on,
It's
it's
impressive.
it's very impressive. Some of the stuff I had no idea she even was involved with.
Yeah.
Look up Kathleen on Wikipedia and look at every film she's been involved with, and it's an insane track record that I wasn't aware of a lot of it.
Yeah.
So she knows, as a producer, she knows what she's doing.
Right.
She knows how a film needs to be made.
Mm-hmm.
So I trust her instincts. Well, I think that is all we have for now on Han Solo. And I think 9 will be fine. Like I said, Han Solo will come out and we'll find out what happened, how it ends up. I look forward to it being a good film. Fingers crossed. So, anything else from you, Michael?
I think we're done here.
All right. Well, if
We've
you
done
enjoy
our
our
internet-
podcast, please go to Twitter
Done our internet style freak out.
at Hokey_religion. Tweet at us. Send us messages. Send us pictures. I don't know. What do you do on Twitter?
Who, me?
Just send us hashtags. Just the hashtag. Nothing after it. Just a bunch of pound signs.
Yep.
We
We want
can
to see your pound signs.
pound us. You can shoot us an email at asklobot@hokeyReligion.com.
Hey, yeah, come on. That's a bone I have to pick.
A bone?
Yeah.
What bones?
I want to pound your bone.
That's a different show. What
Nobody's
about?
been talking to us on Twitter, email, nothing. Come on, people.
We get likes and the retweets, but we actually do want you to interact with us. Send us emails if you have a question or there's something you want us to argue about or yell about on the show.
Send it to us.
Send
we'll
it
do
to us in a tweet or an email.
We're easily manipulated.
Yeah, we are easily bought with nothing but a thumbs up. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, anywhere that sounds are made. You can also, if you really enjoy the show and want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/HokeyReligion and support with as little as $1 a month.
Leave us a review on
helping
iTunes.
us. And please, there was a lot. The last batch of reviews was all the way back from April, so you people need to catch up and go to iTunes and leave us whatever stars you feel appropriate with whatever words that you use.
We want to get this show out there, and that's how we can do it.
Yeah, getting reviews helps with the listings on iTunes. So if you enjoy our show and don't want to verbally have to go to people to tell them to listen to us, just leave us a review, and that will hopefully help other people find us.
It's like throwing money out of your car window is the same as giving it to Red Cross or something.
Sure.
Right?
Yep, that's how it works.
All right, this has been Hokey Religion.
This is Tyler.
This is me.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hokey religion is an ancient word. weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.